out, and we're, like I said, we're all here. आपके पास कोई और भी इसके बाद भी कोई question, I'll be more than happy. I'd be more than happy. I'm sure my colleagues would be, and I'd let Junaid then continue. And like I said, freak you out a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Yasir Qadri, for your brief presentation. I would like to invite the second speaker, Mr. Junaid Khalid. Please welcome.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, thank you very much for having me here. And I promise not to bore you or scare you with any of these slides. Let me just lay the foundation for asset liability management in a more textbook way before I proceed. Asset liability management is the practice of managing a business so that decisions on assets and liabilities are coordinated. And I'm just going to read this out before I proceed. Or more broadly, the ongoing process of formulating, implementing, monitoring, and revising strategies related to assets and liabilities in an attempt to achieve financial objectives for a given set of risk tolerances and constraints. Now, my presentation is going to focus primarily on retirement funds and how you can manage assets and liabilities specific to retirement funds. Before I proceed, can I see a show of hands to see how many trustees of pension, gratuity, or provident funds we have in this room? Any of you trustees? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now out of these 5 people, how many of you actually make decisions on investments related to these funds? None of you? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. All of you? Oh, great, excellent. Okay, so in the last 2 years, what I've noticed, I've met over, I would say, about 200 trustees of retirement funds, and the approach has been that there's a very heavy focus on tracking benchmarks that are such as, say the KSE 30 or KIBOR or PKRV, rather than looking at liabilities of these funds. Say we're looking at a pension fund or a gratuity fund. Whenever we talk to trustees of funds, there's a very heavy focus on KSE 30, itna badh gaya and our equities haven't gone up at all. Or we've made a loss and we're not able to track the KSE index very well, or PKRV is, banks are giving us this rate and mutual funds are giving us this rate. So there's a very heavy focus on the tracking error between these benchmarks and assets held by these retirement funds. The new approach that Yasir touched upon in his presentation is what's referred to as liability-driven investing. Now, what we're trying to achieve here is reducing the tracking error between your liabilities and your benchmark, and then reducing the tracking error between your benchmark and your assets. So, liability-driven investing is not about reducing your risk to zero. It's about understanding where risk is being taken, understanding the rewards for each risk, hedging your unrewarded risks, and diversifying the risks taken. Okay, now here's where it gets very interesting, specifically for the trustees who raised their hands a little earlier. Now, each of you must be aware of the requirement to get an actuarial valuation every year for your retirement funds. And there are certain variables that are taken into account to get these valuations done to determine your future liabilities. These are your employee's age, the past service, retirement age, the benefit your company is offering, the interest rate, the salary increment rate, what salary these employees are making, and the number of employees. And these variables vary from firm to firm. Now, all of these numbers combined are determining various probabilities of these employees dying at any particular time, withdrawing from a company at any particular time, and can give you very interesting numbers that can be quantified at any given date to tell you how much of a liability you can expect at any given point. The actuary tells you one number, which is your present value of your defined obligation, but you can actually use these calculations to determine future cash flows for the next 70 years based on these probabilities. And that's where this mathematics gets really juicy, which is what I'm about to talk to you in a minute. Based on mortality rates, this is what insurers do, and this is what actuaries do for when they're calculating your PVO, is that they look at every employee's age in your company, and they look at mortality rates for these employees. Let's say you have a company which is a relatively young company, where the average age is, say, 29 years. The probability of death in the immediate future is very small. So a 29-year-old dying within 1 year has a very small probability of dying. And as they approach the age of 60, this probability gets very large, and as they approach 80, obviously it's very, very large. So what does this mean? This means that given your employees' ages, I can very accurately determine at what point these employees will cause a burden on my fund. I can use these probabilities to accurately calculate when these employees will leave my company, or when they'll die, and when they'll withdraw from the company and actually cause an outflow from the pension fund or the gratuity fund or the provident fund. Are there any questions? Please stop me in the middle if there are any questions. So in a pension fund, we can then segregate these cash flows into three types. There are active employees, deferred employees who take early retirement, and pensioners who have downward sloping probabilities, which means that they have a very high probability of living early on and a very low probability of living in the future. And we can combine these to accurately gauge future cash flows. So these blue lines are actually showing you the cash flows that you can expect in the future from your provident fund, or from your pension fund. Now this is a graph that's showing you the conventional approach which we've noticed many pension funds across the country using. The red graph in the background is showing you the actuarially determined future cash flows. And the purple bars in this graph are showing you the assets cash flows. And there's a severe mismatch between the asset cash flows and the liability cash flows. And what we're trying to achieve in a picture form is going from this to this. And why we're going to do that, I'm just going to show you in a second. So again, in a nutshell, all we're trying to achieve in ALM is going from this to this. I'm going to pull up a graph to show you precedents from what happened in the UK markets in 2000s that's referred to in every ALM book as the perfect storm. It's a perfect case study that's thrown in our faces, where equity markets were falling, and at the same time, interest rates were falling as well. And what that did was, when interest rates fall and you're valuing liabilities based on, say, the 10-year rate, your present value of liabilities takes a jump. It starts increasing. And at the same time, your assets are decreasing in value as well. So what you see here is liabilities jump up in value and assets also decrease in value. Similarly, if I point your attention to 1995, assets increased tremendously in value, but liabilities increased much more than assets increased, which is also not the best case scenario. Now here's a graph showing you what actually happened in the UK markets. The stock market fell drastically and interest rates fell to an all-time low as well. But what should be pointed out here is that the stock market collapse was not the culprit. Our markets tanked in the last few years, and every fund, every pension or gratuity fund that we came across seemed to be blaming the equities market for a fall in value